Hey, what's up, you sexy bitches, and welcome back to this week's Weekly D. And today I have Caroline on with me, also known as Loveday. We are going to be talking about her experience with OnlyFans, her pole career, and lots more. And this is an episode you don't want to miss out on. I learned so many things today about OnlyFans and how it works. It was super interesting. So do not miss this episode because, honey, this is the Weekly D. And if you ain't getting your D on the daily, you better at least be getting it once on the weekly.
If you're not getting any and you want some tea, then come and join Dan up on the Weekly D. It's the Weekly D.
Caroline, thank you so much for coming on to my podcast. It's so nice to have you on with me. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries at all. I don't know if Jacob told you this, but we kind of got chatting about you in his podcast. So I can't remember what it was. I think it was about the studio ownership and that you both own a studio together. And then I'd said, obviously, I've known you for quite a while. So I was like, I have to get Caroline onto the podcast to talk to Caroline about OnlyFans and about OnlyFans life and studio ownership life. So yeah, and here you are. I'm so happy to have you.
Here I am.
So before we get started, I wanted you to just do I asked people just to do like a little opener, just like, hey, I'm Caroline, this is what I do, blah, blah, blah. So can you give us a little mini bio about who you are for anyone who doesn't know who you are and they want to find out a little bit more about you?
Yeah, so I own Leeds Pole Dance Studio with Jacob, but I was a stripper. I'm now most of the time working on the OnlyFans platform as well. So, and then I also dance and compete and perform with Birdie. So we do Loveday and Birdie doubles.
Yes. So when was the last time you both competed?
May, which was Eden, which is a brilliant, really well-run competition. It was great.
The London one?
Yeah.
The London competition?
The London competition.
Okay, cool. Nice. Yeah. And how did you do?
Great, we won. So as good as we could have
so that's good.
That's good, yeah.
That's a good result, I feel. Oh, good. Okay. And how long have you been? So pole dancing was kind of your entry into sort of the industry, I guess. You started as a pole dancer, mainly doing tricks at first, was it? I said to Jacob, like here, I felt like so many of us back in the day were all tricks, really. We were very trick heavy in the UK. And then people kind of split off a little bit towards, heels and these sorts of styles. What about you? How did your journey start?
Well, I started at a tiny studio in Harrogate, and my teacher had been a stripper and left and was very anti the sex work community at that point. So she was we only do tricks here. We don't wear heels. We don't dance. We just do tricks. So I don't know if you remember these routines where we would like walk around the base of the pole and then do like a invert into a butterfly and that, and then come down like back in the real early days of pole where it was just walking and then like holding a pose for 3 seconds and then maybe a bit more walking.
And then like standing in front of the pole and just like hooking your knee and then being like, this is routine. Woo.
Yeah. So that was kind of my first experience of pole. And then I actually met Bendy Kate at the gym, weirdly. So that's an embarrassing story, actually, because I was like at the gym and she was really strong. And she would, I knew her through one of the dance instructors at Sweaty Betty, and I had all these like connections to her, but I had no idea who she was. And I remember being like, I do pole and I can go upside down. And for the longest time, she was like, that's really cool. Like, that's amazing. And then one day I just found out she was Bendy Kate. And I was like, I've been telling this girl that I do pole for ages. And I was so excited.
Oh, no. But I'm confused. Hold on. So you lived in Bristol then? Because Bendy's in Bristol.
Harrogate. She lived here for a bit. She lived in Yorkshire for a little while.
Right. Oh, yes. Hold on. Didn't you have an ex-boyfriend in Harrogate?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. So he was a PT.
God.
He was a personal trainer with the guy who gave me PT lessons. So we kind of met. And then she walked into my studio one day and I was like, oh my God, this is the girl that I've been like talking to. And she was like, oh yeah, I know who you are. And like, I know you do pole. And I've been saying to her for like, I do pole, I can go upside down. And then she
Oh,
turned
that
up
is
to
so
give us
funny.
all a lesson and we were like, oh no.
That is like hilarious that she didn't say anything. That's
Yeah,
a
she
very
was just
Bendy
really
Kate thing
sweet.
to do.
Yeah, yeah. She was so supportive, so sweet. Like I'd seen her at Sweaty Betty and through the dance instructors there, and she was just the nicest person. And then she was like, yeah, I do pole too.
Oh, it's so funny. So
So
you
through that,
started. So
yeah.
sorry, what did you say? Say that again.
So it was kind of through that my pole really branched out a lot because then I started training a little bit more with Kate, and she was putting together routines at the time, which I think you guys were doing the same thing at the same time. And it was really the first
Yeah,
time
we
people were
were.
putting routines together that were a bit more dynamic and a bit more exciting.
I
Like
think that was
without,
back in the like UK PPC days, wasn't it? Like
yeah,
when Kate and Barry used to run UK PPC, and like that was. Do you know what? I'm very bitter about the UK competition scene recently. I just feel like it's been so ruined. But back then was when I felt like the competition scene was so fun. It was so
yeah,
hot at the time. Like I just loved it. It was just electric. The feeling of being on stage with so many people watching us was just amazing. And now you're lucky if you've got 50 people in an audience. It's
yeah,
really changed. But and actually I want to talk to you about that. So what's your views on, the competition scene now? Because you compete and you have a doubles partner you compete with. What do
yeah.
you think about the industry and how it's changed? Like, what's your vibe on it?
We rarely compete. We do the odd comp. I don't know why, really. I mean, we liked the look of Eden when they put that together. It seemed a lot more performer friendly, and the venue was lovely as well. We often, so if we dance together, generally it's to perform because then you get a much better crowd. And so before COVID, we were booked to do all these torture garden events and huge events. So it's a real shame that COVID hit because then we had this like all these performances
Cool
booked,
gigs.
which now are like they're being rearranged, but they're so far apart. So we were going to have like months where we were away every weekend, and now it's like one performance every month or so, or every couple of months. But generally,
Yeah.
we just maybe do one or two comps a year if something takes our fancy. But we're more focused on the performance aspect, I think, than the competing.
But what do you think about how the scene has changed? Because it's so different now to what, like I said, there was a time where UK PPC was the biggest comp in the UK, and it used to have hundreds of people there. I think there might have even been a time where they had like over 500 people in the audience. Like it was insane. That venue used to fill out, and the tickets used to sell so quickly.
Yeah,
And now I feel like we're at a point where we're lucky if you've got a half full venue, you've done fairly well because people aren't selling the tickets anymore. I've got this theory. It's one that people will not be happy to hear, but I've talked about it before. I've just got this theory that in the UK, we have become this style of routines where they all just look the same. It all just looks the same. It's not like Australia where people are putting on big shows. They're going out of their way to put on this amazing show. Whereas here it's just like people think they can just get on stage with a pretty costume and a nice song and dance and do you know, everyone's desperate to put a freaking Bird of Paradise in because they think that Bird of Paradise is the move that everyone needs to see. And I'm like, no, like no one wants to see that. People want to see an entertaining show because we're beyond tricks now. I genuinely think we are. I think we're beyond tricks. So
yeah,
I just feel like because of that, people aren't coming to watch them because what's the point? You know what I mean? They're just like, well,
yeah.
it's not. Yeah, I don't know. What's your thoughts?
I don't really know what's happened in terms of the scene, the community, or the camaraderie in that respect, because I feel like there was more of just a shared love of pole, and maybe as it's grown, it's almost become too big because there was a time when it just felt like everyone knew everyone in the community. and now maybe it's a bit more splintered. Personally, I think my background was never, I'm not dance trained, gymnastics trained. I didn't do anything really. And I did taekwondo for some years, and then, so which is very different. Obviously it's not dance movement, it's very rigid kind of blocking and attacking movements. So it's the total opposite. So I never had a chance at being, like say Bendy Kate or Ivani Smink or anyone like that with these incredible movement backgrounds and exploration backgrounds. So for me, I really found a lot of love in putting together a performance that's maybe less technical or less difficult, but more, it would feel more complete to watch. It would feel more smooth, more polished, but wouldn't be as hard. And I do think maybe part of the history in the UK of like jamming these really difficult tricks in that you can barely hold, that makes for kind of awkward watching, because you're like, it's like, oh, are they going to make it? And I think that, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people coming up now who I really admire who rarely do tricks. They just have incredible movement. They're kind of like operating their own bodies so well at a basic level. And it looks, it's just hypnotic to watch. Before you know it, you've watched a 5-minute routine and you're in a trance the whole way through.
Right.
And you're like, what happened? I don't see that often anymore, where I'm so drawn into something. And I don't think you need the hard tricks to do that. I think, it's a different kind of command of your space, like the ability to fill the stage or create a scene or sell a character that you're not, it's not, the tricks are amazing. If you can do them perfectly, then you will do the same thing, if that makes sense. You'll keep that attention, but you don't need it. I think you need the ability to settle in your space and then bring that. And it doesn't have to be difficult, but it does make for awkward watching when someone's kind of barely holding their tricks and not, it's a bit like scary to watch.
It was the London Pole Championships yesterday, and Mitch went, and I then, because I was away, and I decided just to look up and see how people got on, and I saw some clips, and there was one girl put what's it called, a Bird of Paradise in, and so she's trying to get into this Bird of Paradise, and she's trying to get her hands together, and she's doing the reach and the re-reach and the re-reach, and I'm like, what? Who told you to put that in? Like, I just find it confusing. Like, because so many people don't use coaches either, and I find that really odd. I actually was chatting to someone else the other day as well, and I was like, "Oh, who's coaching you for your comp?" She was like, "Oh, no one. I'm just doing it myself." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I guess because for so long I used coaches. And like it did me pretty well. Like I did quite well out of it. I think having another perspective is super important, and having someone there just to sort of humble you and be like, listen, I'm not sure putting that Bird of Paradise is the best idea. Why don't we put something else that's very similar in that you're going to execute so much more cleanly? Because the truth is that there's nothing worse now than watching someone fumble to get into their moves. But then it's funny because in the video she scrambles to get into this Bird of Paradise, she gets it, and then when she gets it the crowd goes wild. But it's almost a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit, for me it's a bit like, well done, but it's so sad that it took you so long to get into, because I would have rather watched you do a really nice jade split. If you were going to find that easier, I'd rather watch something that's probably going to be more aesthetically pleasing because it's not as hard for you to get into. If you can do a Bird of Paradise without thinking about it, and you're just going to be like, bam, hands connected, split, let's go. Oh, beautiful. Love that. But yeah, if not, I feel like there's no place for it in a routine. But I think again, like, we have a generation of pole dancers who maybe are training themselves, or a generation of pole dancers who are training other pole dancers to be like, yes, let's put all the big tricks in. It's like, yeah, it's sad, really. And I think this is the problem that we have, is that we've got too much focus, I think, on that, which is weird. But the competition scene has just changed a lot. I've talked a lot about it with other people, but It's sad, really, but I really hope. I was chatting to someone about it yesterday. I was saying, I really hope that someone comes along. It'll have to be someone who's got enough money just to really shake stuff up and just be like, right, we're going to shake shit up in the UK and make it like Australia is. I keep comparing us to Australia, but I'd love to see like a pole icon here. Do you know, like Miss Pole Dance Australia, similar style. Like, I know we have Miss Pole Dance here, but it's not the same. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm also happy to admit that I'm a complete bitter bitch when it comes to the pole scene, the competition scene. I feel like it's been totally trash, and I'm always bitching about it. So it might just be me. It might just be me who feels that way. I know it's definitely not just me because I get a lot of people messaging me saying, "Oh, I hate this as well," blah blah blah. But no one wants to talk about it. It's only me.
Well, I don't
So
know if
that's not.
maybe I think I do notice when because I take a lot of online classes and stuff as well. And so I notice if I do like a beginner level class from a platform in Australia, that how, you go to a class, so our beginners classes, in the UK, we all do some spins and step arounds and walks and that kind of thing. They're like humping the floor for 6 weeks before they even really touch the pole, or they're doing TikToks with their legs or
Right.
rolling. And, really before they even get on the pole, their beginner routines are so much more basic than ours are. And I feel like by the time they're getting to the pole, there's already a level of body knowledge, dance knowledge, spatial awareness, training with lines, because it's
Yeah.
really hard to go back and do that work. And like everyone that ever got good, I think at some point got half decent and thought, I look terrible. I need to go back almost to the beginning and
Yeah.
do everything with better legs and better lines and better hands and a better face and like, better hair, because you get so far and you're like, okay, I can do this really hard stuff, but I'm barely making it through my routines. And the difference between,
Mm.
I say this I do a class, at the end of class, we kind of link all our moves. And I say, it's so easy to come and do one move and then get off the pole and chat to your friend and then do another move. And when you link them together at the end of class, 3 beginner moves in a row is pretty intermediate, stamina wise, to get through, and then to do it nicely and make everything look, and then your beginner moves can be incredibly advanced with the right finish and the right line and the right aesthetic. And I think people dismiss a chair spin or dismiss, a beautiful step around because they're like, oh, well, why? I did that in my first ever class. Why would I put that in a routine? Because if you do that well, it becomes advanced.
Yeah, and people, I teach a workshop, a combos workshop, and I always say to people, I'm like, the moves that you're going to learn here, I've called them advanced because
The first one is Kinsley Craft Workshop at Kinsley.
Okay, Google, stop.
Okay.
I have no idea. Maybe because you must have set her off.
I must have said something that set Google up. That's so funny.
She wants to be in the chat.
Oh God.
Google has something to
Yeah,
say.
Google just wants to be involved. That is so funny. I was like, who is that talking in the background? And then I realized it was Google. What was I saying? Yeah, I teach this like combos class, and I always say to people, I'm like, the moves I'm actually going to teach you, they're more, I would say, maybe intermediate, but what makes it advanced is the way that we're linking them together. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. And the thing is, though, I do use Australia as an example, but the pole scene there is a completely different ball game to us because a lot of them do 8-week terms or 6-week
Yeah.
terms, maybe it is, I can't remember which one, but and they learn choreo every 8 weeks. They learn a full routine. They learn the tricks for that routine. They then put it into a choreo. They add to the choreo every week. Like, it's just completely different here, but I don't know what you feel about that, but I don't feel if I change my studio and said, right, we're going to do that now. I'm really sorry, but we're getting rid of tricks classes. We're still going to do tricks, but they will be made into routines, like it or lump it kind of thing. I would lose so many students. They'd just all leave. They love the tricks.
Yeah.
We're very trick heavy in the UK. Why do you think that is?
I think that's just the precedent. I do think, having been now in both, sex work, non-sex work side of things, I do think there was, when I started pole dance, it was, we were not strippers. We did not dance like that. We did not. and there was a taboo. And actually, that was why I started pole in the first place. And I hear that so much from my students. You know, I came to pole because I wanted to feel sexy, I wanted to feel good. And then they walk into their class. I think the mentality of your instructor will shape how you approach the rest of your pole career. Unless you know, or the people you admire most in the industry. So we're lucky because at our studio we have, I think, 7 instructors. And so what we've started to do, because I agree with you, I think the way that they teach, I would have liked to have learned in that way. And I didn't feel like I had the choice to learn like you. I went to my class and it was, here's the tricks we're doing this week. And then, you know, and I was hooked. But then now I look back and I think I would love to have gone and learned routines and learned combos and I want to have learned in that way. So what I do in my class is, because if students don't like my class, they can go to any of the other 6. So we have that ability to kind of experiment with things a little bit more. And then if, you know, numbers drop off, we can say, right, that didn't work. So what I do is I teach, you know, like 2-3 moves, and then I show them how to link it. And then the last 10 minutes of class, I just put different songs on, different tempos, and I have them dance that routine over and over and over to find their way their body wants to move to. It's almost like a cross between freestyle practice and, you know, training the moves we've been doing so they can dance, or if they feel nervous to do that, because it's a scary thing, they could just practice. But normally what happens is by the end of the 10 minutes, everyone's dancing because they're all getting the vibe. So we turn the lights down. We have these neon lights on. We make it kind of moody. I always burn incense because I'm like that. And then, you know, everyone's normally dancing by the end of the 10 minutes. So off the back of that, we've said coming January, we're going to start teaching a routine class, and we'll see how it goes. But I wouldn't, you know, I think people would find it, because it's a bit of a doddle, isn't it? You go to class and you do some tricks and you chat with your friend and you go home and you put your lotion on, like, oh, it hurts. And, you know, but to go from that, you know, kind of doodling around class to turning up and your teacher going, right, this is going to be intense because we're going to do like a whole routine. We've got an hour to get through it, 15-minute warm up that's going to kill you. And then off the back of that, we're linking 6 moves. You better do it nicely. You know, face, hair, legs, lines, everything. You're going to be like, what happened to my instructor? And like, where's the chill gone? So
I think as well, like, and again, it's just my perspective on this. I've noticed that a lot of the Australians are there's a lot of super fit, like not fit as in like their bodies are fit, but they are physically, they have very high endurance and they're able to dance for ages. Sometimes when I teach choreos to people in the UK, I get 1 minute in and they're like dying. They just can't keep up because we're not used to dancing here. I mean, a whole song, you got to be kidding me. Like, we need to train for months to get a whole competition routine together. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, and I kind of like that they have that kind of cardio element in it, because that's what the dancing is. I teach a choreo class every week and my God, it's cardio. Like, we are sweating our tits off. Like, we're so hot. But yeah, no, I'd love to see us, at some point maybe change a little bit. And who knows, the scene is changing constantly. And I feel like the UK is in a bit of an odd place at the moment, but like with everything, it'll change. And I hope I'd love to see it go towards the way Australia is, but who knows what it's going to end up like. So when I first met you, you were probably doing more tricks, I would say. And then when did the change happen that you moved towards heels and that style?
I think I was always going on Instagram. I followed all the Australian pole dancers, and was always looking like, I can do what you can do with my body, but I can't do what you can do. You know, like, I could do the trick, but I was like, there's something different, and trying to find the space between what I was learning and what they were doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
I know what you mean.
it's like the difference between 2 people doing the same thing. And I was like, I wasn't dancing in heels, and I wasn't, and partly because like I say, the mentality of your studio. And I think as an instructor, you have a big responsibility to show that you are open-minded, that if you're in it because you love movement and you love dance and you love the ability to connect with yourself in a way that most people never really learn, then you're going to be open to your students exploring every direction that's available to them. And I think that's a really good thing. But if in any way you're closed, like my first instructor was very closed, we didn't do heels, and I really adopted that mentality because she was my first mentor and leader in the industry. And so I was like, well, this is what pole is. I went in thinking I wanted to be sexy and I wanted to move better. And I just wanted to do something for me. And I kind of came out it was like a little production line. And I kind of came out the other side like a little robot, like we just do tricks now. And it was really in like trying to find the difference. Like, I don't understand, and not having any movement background, I'm like, I'm doing the same thing. I don't get it. And I realized,
Right.
I could watch a whole routine. Someone does like 3 tricks and I was like, this is beautiful. Like, it was the hypnotic, the leg swirls, the movement, the sensuality. And I think that was when I thought, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm just going to, I took my heels to class and I remember she was like, you're not putting them on. I said, I am. Because I was cheeky and she was, it was kind of banterish. It wasn't, if she said absolutely not, I wouldn't have. But I kind of knew because she used to be a stripper and I was like, I think I can get away with this.
I have to ask this. Is this Nanette you're talking about?
No. Nanette she's been so open-minded. Nanette would be like, you turn up with whatever you want, love. It was
yeah.
Leia, a woman called Leia.
I was going to say, I don't think I met Leia.
I think it was a workshop, actually. It was a workshop in Harrogate. We had 50mm poles.
Possibly. It would have been years ago. It would have been years ago.
Yeah. Years ago. No, it was a woman called Leia.
That's so. But do you know why I think that happened? I don't know how far back you started, but when I started, I think the scene had just started kind of warming up for however many years. So I was fairly early on, but late compared to some. And Katie Coates was one of like the first kind of big names to really try and push pole into the scene, and she was like an ex-pole girl, and so, but she was really, I noticed that so much of the stuff that she was trying to promote was very much sports fitness, as she still is, and it almost, looking back, it almost was like she was trying to sanitize the pole industry to be mainstream, which I understand why they did it, money, etc. But yeah, it's now it's like people have rebelled against the sanitization of it, and they're like, no, fuck you, we're going to dance in heels.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah.
And I kind of like that. I do like that. I like that people have rebelled against it. And actually, the reason I like that is because I've never wanted pole to be in the Olympics. People always think like, oh, but you did pole sports. Do you want to be in the Olympics? I'm like, well, I did pole sports a couple of times just to try it out and see what it was like as a challenge. But I ended up hating it and just inevitably decided not to do it anymore because it was so hard. Hats off to people who do it. But I don't want it to be in the Olympics. And I don't want it to be in the Olympics because I just feel like as soon as it becomes an Olympic sport, it's then no longer that cool, small community that I once joined that felt like something that was so secret and underground. I felt like I was part of something really special. I don't feel like that so much now because it is a lot more mainstream, but I do still love it in the sense that it's still a bit like when people say to me, what do you do? And I tell them I'm a pole dancer, I've got a pole studio and I travel the world teaching pole. People are like, what? I'm like, and I kind of like that. I don't know. I like the tabooness of it,
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite averse to the industry now, but one of my, I know Birdie, her husband often gets comment, you let your wife do what? And, she's posting and I'm like, I'm so, obviously my industry now, being in sex work, it's like totally the opposite. It's like, I think you're too covered up here. And you forget that the mainstream are actually pretty reserved still.
Yeah. Oh God. So is that. I don't think they're quite ready for some of the stuff that some of the pole dancers are putting out there at the moment. But
Good.
yeah, yeah, which is good. But do you know what? And it's sad because society has been conditioned to thinking that it's wrong. But I think more and more people are really delving into their sexuality and their, body, learning about their bodies and stuff. And I think we're really contributing towards that. And it's a great thing, to be honest. Sorry, I kind of totally got diverted there a little bit because we are here to talk about OnlyFans because I have so many questions, and I'm gonna put a little warning here now that I might ask some stupid questions here because I literally know nothing about it. I've never used it. I don't know much about it. I've never been putting content on there, so I don't really know how it works and stuff. So I'm really just here to learn about it and listen. But when did the OnlyFans journey start for you? Did it start during lockdown?
Yeah, I think there was no reason for it whatsoever, but I started to notice I was getting a lot of I'm going to call them pervy Pete followers on Instagram. My Instagram got quite big and I wasn't doing anything that would warrant that. So I don't know if someone maybe shared something or, what these weird accounts that take photos of girls and put them up somewhere. And I would get a lot of really weird comments off guys and DMs but hundreds. So I was thinking, well, it was before they made sending dick pics illegal. And so I would open Instagram and it would be like, are you kidding me? And I got really angry about it, really angry about it. And then I don't know if you've heard of the Suicide Girls. They're
Yeah. Are they
beautiful
the Suicide
alternative.
Girls are yeah, they're tattooed, they do the fire performances and stuff, right?
Yeah. So I had
Yeah.
a friend who was a suicide girl, and she said, you can use this to your advantage if people are sending you this stuff, which, I talked to my girlfriend, everyone was getting them. Everyone was getting these messages. But I think because I'd become a full-time pole instructor, I was posting a lot in skimpy clothes. And so it's probably that, whereas most people have got their week out and their kids and their cat and their dog and then maybe the odd pole routine. But my grid was bikini pole dancers and stuff like that. So so she said, well, look, just set up on any, because if people are going to send you this stuff, you may as well get some money for it. So that was
Too
kind of how
right.
I started. I mean, I was a stripper as well. So
Okay.
before lockdown, I was stripping for about a year before lockdown. And then obviously the clubs closed. And so she said, look, just set up on OnlyFans because it's a really good way of continuing that income through lockdown. And, you could divert those guys. I kind of quickly learned that the guys that send you that on Instagram will never be your paying customers. They're never the ones
Yeah.
that want to, sign up. They will continue to do that. So if anyone's thinking oh,
Can
I can use
I
that to make some money, it
Well,
doesn't
I
work
was
like
going to
that.
ask, do you and this is my marketing head, my marketing head on here. When do you just say to them, "Hey, here's my OnlyFans," or do you say to them, and sorry, this is a little bit intense, but do you say to them "Oh God, that looks so nice. I'd love to see you over on my OnlyFans," or do you give them any dirty talk to try and get them involved? Do you know what I mean? Because I sort of think if they it sounds terrible because it sounds a bit like entrapment, and it kind of is, but they deserve
No,
it, I
it's
feel,
it's
because
valid. Yeah,
they've sent unsolicited dick pics. So, I think they deserve to be entrapped a little bit, but almost being "Oh, I'd love to see you over my OnlyFans, whatever, so you can send me more." Because at least if they're sending you them on OnlyFans, do you know what I
yeah.
mean? At least you're getting paid for it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. So did you ever have you ever looked at it like that? Or what were you saying to them?
I have messaged people and just sent them my link and said, look, I don't talk to people here, I talk to people there. But they never really come across. Now I just ignore them. I don't talk to their links in my bio. Is pretty obvious if you looked at my Instagram what I do. You would be under no illusion. So that the people that want to see more will go and find it. I have tried the kind of sales tactics, but they don't work.
They
The
don't.
guys, the people that are disrespectful people, full stop. They're never going to be the ones that convert to being your paid fans on the site. So her logic wasn't actually sound in that respect, but it did start a journey for me that was perhaps one of the best journeys I've ever been on.
That's awesome. And hey, sorry to interrupt your episode. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about one of the sponsors of this podcast. And this podcast is sponsored by Polos. And Polos is an online shop where you can buy everything from pole dancing merchandise to dick-shaped bath bombs. And let's be honest, who doesn't want a dick-shaped bath bomb? I mean, am I right? You can get 10% off on the website polos.com by using code POLOLS10. That's code POLOLS10. So go ahead to the website. You can find everything from dick-shaped bath bombs to pole dancing cats, pole dancing dogs. We've got t-shirts, we've got jumpers. There's something for everyone. So go and check out polos.com. What was the beginning of the journey like? How did it feel? Did it feel like, I'm just asking because I imagine for me, I'd maybe start off a bit embarrassed and be a bit like, oh God, what am I doing? And then I assume after time, more people sign up and then you become more comfortable. What was the beginning of your journey like?
Well, I mean, I was used to stripping. I was used to the nudity aspect. So I was kind of already, I'm going to say conditioned, because it is a self-conditioning in that respect. So at that point, I wasn't worried, because I know a lot of, when I talk to my friends, they're kind of like, oh, but, you've got to see yourself. And I'm like, I'm dancing in a mirrored room, like I've seen everything there is to see, and there's no, so that I was already conditioned in that aspect. But I did feel for the first time it was more public. Whereas I could choose whether or not I wanted to tell people I was a stripper. In order to convert people across to OnlyFans, you have to be public. And whilst you can set up an Instagram profile and wear a mask and do it all in the secret, first two things, I felt like, what's the point? Because I want to earn money. I'm not going to, why would you do this for free? You're not going to, contort yourself like a pretzel and take photos of that naked for free. But also, I think I found it a way to kind of cull the fat. Like I didn't want, if anyone was in my life that I felt would judge someone for being a sex worker, for being in the industry, I kind of wanted to know. I thought, well, that's fine. I'm ready to take that leap now. And if I have to face people not liking that, I'm prepared to do that, because they're not my people. And they're not I want to get rid of them so I can make space for better people, more accepting, loving people. So I kind of felt
did you have anyone that didn't like it?
I was really surprised. I had so much support. I was genuinely surprised. I mean, there was the odd someone I worked with in an office a decade ago, that kind of, I noticed people like that would drop off, stop engaging, unfollow. But, these are people that I would never have spoken to again anyway. So that was fine. No, the support made me feel so much better about the whole thing. Like I kind of went in braced. And when I got in, I was like, actually, this is fine. That nothing I feared happened. But that's not necessarily a normal journey. I live in the UK. It's a very open place. I've had friends in other countries that are completely unable to come out about being a sex worker. But
oh, what about like family and stuff? Family and like close friends? Did any of your family see about it and have any problems? I tend to find whenever I speak to people about any type of sex work, stripping, it is always the family that they have the problem with. It's never the friends. It's always the families. There's like some stupid aunt or whatever that thinks it's disgusting and is like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. Yeah. Did you have any of that? Or your family? I don't know why I keep croaking today.
Is it early?
I know it is early. Or were your family all good with it?
Yeah, I think I have family members that are a bit like, I don't know if I would do that. I don't know how I feel about her doing that, but ultimately their love for me and my sister and my family was bigger than I think mainly when people worry, it's like, are they safe? You hear these crazy stories of stalkers and, like obsessive people. And I think it's like, there is an image I think a lot of people have of sex workers that's, if you were to if someone said someone was an OnlyFans model, the first person you would conjure up in your head is maybe someone like a little bit more aloof, a little bit less grounded, a little bit less, maybe someone that's gone, I just want to earn a bit of money quickly. And that image is the first. So when you tell someone, that's the first place they go is like, oh my, are you okay? Like, do you need to see someone? But then I think,
we can help you with money.
yeah. I'll pay you to clean the car. But I've never met I've never learned more about business management and more grounded people than I've networked with in the sex work industry. They're not at all really. I mean, of course, those people exist, but the vast majority of people are doing what it takes to live, because it's hard. Like the cost of living, even
Oh God,
before
I can only
is
imagine.
hard. Like you get up every day and you're working a 9 to 5 and you're exhausted and you come home and, there's maybe, if you're a couple or more, that, you're all going out and working, and then the housework still needs doing. And, it's hard. And then you've got this group of people that are going, okay, I'm going to do something that's less conventional, but I can earn the money for myself that makes it worth. I'm still working. I mean, I was a qualified financial advisor and I'm earning 3 times what I was earning from OnlyFans alone. What I was earning is, working 9 to 5, making so much money for another company. And I always think, if someone can afford to pay you 30,000 a year, say, then you're worth more than that. And I think if it wasn't for lockdown, maybe I would never have seen my worth in that respect, that I'm making someone else this money, and that so I'm worth more than that. But I was in a position where I had to take a chance at something. I had to do something. And because I'd been stripping, it was a natural kind of segue. I was already in the sex work community. And I had people saying to me, look, why don't you try this as an avenue? And I'm so glad I did that, because then I did discover, actually, yes, I do have worth that I can go and make for myself. That I think, money and finances aside, what it's done for my self-belief has been, because I can create something, and I know that now. But the thing is, it's not unique to me. Hundreds of people, men, women, non-binary people are out there creating this now, and there's nothing unique or special about me or them or any of us, anyone that set up and that put in the work, anyone can achieve that in a self-employed arena. It doesn't have to be sex work.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is something special about them, though. The people that do well, I think they're marketing geniuses. God, I said that really weird. They're marketing geniuses, because you don't just get people sign up to OnlyFans. When you hear people say, "Oh, fuck this, I'm just gonna set up an OnlyFans," and they joke about it, like as if it's it's so easy. Lol, it's so funny, and or oh fuck this, I'm just going to become a stripper, and they say it flippantly, and I know they mean no harm by it, by the way, so I'm not offended by that, but it makes me laugh, because you can't just be anyone and set up an OnlyFans. You've got to build up a following. You've got to create content. You've got to create free content to get more paid people on board. You've got to be promoting the shit out of yourself, and people don't. It's the same with me. I don't run OnlyFans, but obviously I have an online subscription, and it's that whole thing of like, I've got to be selling it, and I've got to be showing people why they should be on my platform and why it's so amazing. And that is marketing. And people don't realize that if you can't market yourself, you can't just have a few hundred followers and think, oh yeah, I'm going to set up an OnlyFans, so I'm going to make so much money. And like you said, that whole thing of like, you can't do it anonymously because no one's gonna follow you, because people are buying into the fancy. People are buying into, this is Caroline, and like, I followed her and she's so gorgeous and she has a nice personality, and they feel like, it sounds a bit weird, but they feel like they know you, I guess. So they're following you and they're coming to your OnlyFans because they want to connect with you on another level now. Like, they've already connected you on social media, and people don't realize what hustle that is. This is real, like, business. People don't take it so seriously, but this is a proper business.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a hustle, but it's not, I guess what I mean to say is it's a journey, right? So you start day one with nobody, with nothing. And, if you set up, the day I set up, I got a few curious people. I mean, they're not even around anymore, But if you are committed to the process of trial and error, and if you are committed to just, and networking is huge, networking with other sex workers or networking with other people in the same industry as you, and sharing stuff and building that, I know now what works for me and what doesn't work for me so much more than I did when I started this 2.5 years ago. And, but what I mean to say is not that these people aren't special or that we're not special. I mean, anyone that's got the commitment to get up in the morning and just be like, well, it's like becoming strong at pole, because yes, to be an incredible pole athlete, you have to train a lot. You have to run. You can't neglect your strength training. The components that make up a successful athlete are many. And, when someone comes to the first pole class, that meme where there's that guy, there's the Batman one where he's like slapping Robin and it says, but I'm not strong enough. And it's the same thing, but I'm not good at marketing enough. But you don't start on day one with the marketing skills, because how do you sell yourself? The first time I had to say to some guy, you want to see me naked? Okay, it's £24. We go downstairs into a booth and it's 3 minutes. And I'm not even naked the whole time because I'm going to get naked as the 3 minutes goes on. Like, how do you make that sound like a good, because anyone in their right mind would be like, are you out of your mind? I could just go on the internet now and see someone naked for half an hour for free. And, you realize in these moments, like, that because it's me, because I can bring something to you that person on the internet can't, because we can have a connection and a conversation. And you have to learn, and it's the same for you selling your platform. You have to learn what makes you unique. And when you start that, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I had a lot of, and I still do. I have a lot of like, well, why do you think you can do this above anyone else? So why does someone subscribe to your site above someone else's site? And so you're not only marketing yourself all the time, you're doing the inner work as well, because I am worth this, actually, because I can offer things that other people can't. But it's okay if they don't want the things I can offer, because now I have enough standing within my community to say, right, well, this girl can offer you what you've got. But then she might say to one of her guys, oh, I know someone that you would like to subscribe to. And do you know what I mean? It's the self-work, the days when you wake up and you've lost 20 subscribers overnight. And the first time that happens, you think, I'm done for. That's it. It was a nice ride, but it's over. And then, you build up again. You just get your head down and you think, right, what can I try now? It's constant failure. The journey to getting anywhere is constant failure. And when you're there, you have to expect the next drop. You have to expect the next failure. But nothing will teach you more than failing over and over and over. And it's the same with pole. It's the same with any journey where you're going to success. You have to get used to, instead of when the bad times come, being like, that's it, it's over, that panic thinking that I had, when I experienced my first major dip in subs. If you can be like, okay, let's not panic, let's just get, back on the grind. And that's persistence. And I don't think you need any particular skill set other than a dogged persistence to keep going.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I think as well, like, I don't know if you. I'm the same. I mean, I don't run on OnlyFans, but obviously subscription site kind of the same. Did you notice a big dip after the pandemic? So one thing that I
Yeah.
noticed was definitely more so for me because a lot of people were polling with me online because it was their only option at the time. So I noticed a big dip after the pandemic and I was kind of prepared for it. But there's also something that sort of makes you feel a bit sad about it. You're a bit like, oh, that was really fun. The money was
Yeah.
fun, but also it was nice having so many people in class and you know, you create like a connection with them and stuff. When was your first big dip? Was it when everyone started going back to work?
Well, my rise on OnlyFans was kind of more so. I wasn't one of the girls that blew up overnight, and that's a rarer story. But so if I look at my earning history, there's a steady rise month on month, and then I mean it's kind of more like this, if you know what I mean,
Yeah,
because the girls that did really well, the girls that boomed when the lockdown happened, they had already done the journey I was just starting the year or
right.
two before, you know. So there was that element where I was just building month on month and I was kind of learning as I went. So it wasn't the big dips now hit me less because I can turn it fast because I practiced when I was tiny and now I'm bigger. So if I woke up and I lost like 50 subscribers tonight, I would be a bit like, this is going to be a lot of hard work. I'm kind of annoyed. But I would know, right, okay, I need to hit this. I need to hit that. I need to do these things. I can
Yeah.
allocate my time now in the way that brings in the subscribers.
Do you mind if I ask, like, what's the most subscribers that you've ever had at a time at one time?
750.
Wow, that's amazing. And do
Yeah,
you mind if I ask what you're at now? So that was obviously when you're at your busiest, probably lockdown sort of time when everyone was at home. But what are you at now?
500, roughly. I mean, it hovers,
That's
like,
still amazing.
yeah, yeah.
That's
I
just
mean,
still so awesome. Like,
there's people with thousands, but bear in
sorry, go
mind that
on.
I was never, I'm just the girl next door, if that makes sense. There's not, I didn't, like so my friend that's a suicide girl, she's got 3,500 subscribers because she's pushed on that platform all the time.
Whoa.
These are models, these are famous people or like within the industry. And then of course you've got, because I
Right.
have actually now worked in mainstream porn as well, but you've got your big mainstream porn names and they have thousands and thousands of subscribers. But yeah, your average girl next door can get a living, a decent living on OnlyFans. I'm not
Yeah.
saying
Well,
everyone should, anything like that. I'm just saying it's not like any subscription site, anything. I guess it's like you don't have to have all the skills when you start. I went in blind, like most people do with anything, new business ideas. And when you get into it, I was talking to my hairdresser, and she was saying, I know you're talking about making porn, but like our journey's the same. It's the same when it comes to starting a new business, no matter what you do.
yeah, 100%. And we did, so for anyone who is like, oh, these are really personal questions, I did check these first before we started the interview, don't worry. But do you mind just telling us, like, what was the best month you've ever had financially from OnlyFans? Because one thing that people always see is what they hear about, like Bella Thorne making
Mm.
millions of dollars or whatever it was when she, set up that. What is for the 750 like subscribers, what is that in money terms? Like what can that get
Well,
you?
I'm kind of steady away. So I get better all the time. My better months are the months I've been having this year. But I probably make about $5,000. And that's after OnlyFans. That's net of OnlyFans taxes a month on OnlyFans.
Wow,
So
that's a life-changing amount. I mean, in
yeah,
pounds, what is
it's
that? It's probably like
about 4 grand that I would.
£4,000.
Yeah, about
Right.
4,000. I mean, the
That-
exchange rate's good at the minute. So of course you've got your pound cost averaging and your exchange rate fluctuations, but currently about 4,200.
right.
Which
So,
which is
and yeah, I was just gonna say, like £4,000, like how many people do you know that make £4,000? But I'm assuming as well, we're talking before UK tax, right? We're not
Yeah. So it's
before,
native
yeah.
OnlyFans. OnlyFans take 20%. So when they pay out, that's what I get. And then obviously I
Okay,
have to pay UK tax and national insurance as well.
sure. That's still like a crazy amount, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I feel like people hear that and they think, oh, like I want to be able to make that, or do you know what I mean? Like I reckon I could do that, and it's so funny because I'm like, no, hon, I don't think you could. I don't think you realise actually how much is really involved
Well,
in this. But that's amazing, and what a
I mean,
life
it's
changing
full
amount of
time.
money. Like,
It's incredible, and it's full time, and it set me free. You know, I was in that race. I was in that 9 to 5. I was in that grind. You know, and when I first started teaching pole, I would work 9 to 5, and then I'd go and teach at the studio for 3 hours.
yeah,
I still teach 3 days a week. I also do some work. So I work for, we do these things called shout outs on OnlyFans, which is when you post one model on your page for a day and they post you back. So you get exposure to each other's subscribers effectively. No pun intended. But
yeah, yeah.
um, so
And is
I
that, sorry,
organize.
forgive my ignorance on this. Is that like you do like a video together? Do you mean?
No, so I would just send them some nudes and they would send me some in a
Oh,
bio saying, you know, my friend Loveday is really nasty, go follow her, you know, whatever you want to say. And then they would post that as a regular post. It would be like you posting me on your Instagram page and me posting you on mine saying, this is my friend Dan. He's really cool. You should go give him a follow. So we do that for
right.
each other and
And
they self delete in a day.
do you know what? I have been thinking of messaging some people about this because
Yeah.
I see fitness influencers do this all the time. No pole dancers do that. Why don't we do
Yeah.
that? I do,
I don't
sometimes
know.
I will actually, without them
There's,
even
there's a
doing it back for
very,
me.
there's a very gatekeepy. Some people are just gatekeepy, and some. I think the bigger the community, I mean, you know, the OnlyFans models. There's got to be hundreds of thousands of us. It's less, and I think as well. There's more. We're already in a position of like people not wanting to work with us, people not accepting us. I think there's definitely a look. We will work together, and I know that like it's worth me. So it's like, it's a scary thing to say, well, what if all my subscribers prefer her photos and her videos and then they all go over there and they don't want anything? But it works in reverse as well. You know, you know, maybe my subscribers want to see, you know, someone more fuller with big boobs and dark hair. But her subscribers might think, I quite like that weird little pale redhead from the UK. I'll go follow her. So I think,
You are not a weird little pale redhead. You're a super hot redhead. How dare you?
but it's not it's a test for the ego, because that's when your imposter syndrome comes out the most, when you're having to side by side put your work alongside someone else's and say, you know, you're promoting them effectively on your page and they're promoting you on, you know, and then you've got to be like, oh, I hope my stuff's as good, or I hope they like. I learned a lot from doing those shout outs because they helped me improve the photos and content I was making, because I became inspired by what they were doing. And I also learned that I can hold my own there. So even though
Yeah.
at first it's a scary thing and you want to kind of not do it because you think, well, actually, I don't want to put myself, no one wants to be judged. And to put yourself in direct comparison with another person for subscribers is a scary thing. But there is actually,
Right.
and I really don't believe, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't know if I believe in that law of attraction and abundance, you know, all that kind of thing. I think it's rubbish. But I do think when they get one thing right, when they say there is enough in the world for everybody, there is enough abundance effectively, there is enough, if you can take those steps to not be scared of the comparison and not be scared of, because I think that holds a lot of people back. It holds me back anyway. And when
Yeah.
you go to those spaces, you realize actually the water's fine. It's not that bad. And then you all stand
Um,
to grow. And it's the same with all growth. Most people don't get where they're going alone. You always get there with others. and I think that's a really important thing. So I do that for them. They pay me to arrange their shout outs because they can't be bothered to do it. So, but that for me was also huge because so the potential on OnlyFans is massive. The girls I work for in the 0% range, I'm 2%. So that's what I earn at 2%. One of the girls I work for is
Oh, sorry.
0.2.
Explain that. Explain that again. What do you mean? What do you mean you're 2%?
So OnlyFans calculates your earnings over a 30-day period in line with everybody else on the platform. And then it'll give you a percentage of where you sit in that space. So I'm in the 2%
Is this when people
space.
share? Is
Yeah,
this when people share and they say, "Oh, I'm in the top 2% of creators"?
yes.
Ah,
That's where they sit in
wow.
line financially with all of the creators on the platform.
Oh, that makes
So
sense now.
one of the girls I work for, 0.27%. So she's making $33,000 a month.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
crazy
And
money, isn't it?
amazing. It's amazing money. But yeah. So, and
And
she's a normal girl.
so I feel like we've talked a lot about the I feel we've talked a lot about the glamorous side of OnlyFans. What's the dark side of OnlyFans?
I think,
Or like a downside? Like, is there any parts of it that you think, oh, whether it be, I don't know. I mean, I've heard the horror stories about people getting threats on OnlyFans or people saying that they know where they live and stuff like their privacy has been invaded. And have you dealt with any of that?
rarely, the dark
That's
side of
great. That's good to
OnlyFans.
hear.
I mean, yeah, that happens, but I've never felt unsafe, and that's one of the reasons I'm blessed because I was always very open about being a sex worker. I never want to give anyone the power of being able to dox me. It's like you dox me, well, it's fine, I'm already out, but I'll dox you right back. And, you're not out as a harasser. So that's kind of, I've never really had that problem. I think that is much more of an issue if you try to do OnlyFans anonymously.
Right.
The dark side of OnlyFans is probably mainly things like, for a start, you sometimes get people with really bizarre requests, customs that can be difficult. So dealing with anything that you're dealing with sexual fetishes, these are things that, as normal as they can possibly be, are not talked. We don't talk about our sex lives. We don't talk about sex. I don't think that's a good thing. I personally think that's very unhealthy. But the first time you're exposed to, you open the door and you're like, throw your weirdest sexual fetishes and ideas at me, and I will try and make them come to life. And 99 times out of 100, they're incredible. I have blocked people for giving, for asking me to create customs that I'm like, I'm not comfortable doing this. And that is, I mean, it's a very rare thing.
Right.
The ongoing day-to-day struggle with OnlyFans that I would say was a dark side is that if you walk into a world where you are perceived to be, or you're supposed to be the most beautiful, the most glamorous, the most artistic, and you are immersed in a world of everybody being in that, all beautiful, all models, and everybody is, for what it's worth, has that, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that's true. But the self work you need to do to be like, I have earned my space with these people. That's probably like, I don't know there's that. Have you heard that thing where they say, how much does this weigh? And they give someone like a bag of feathers, and then he says, well, nothing. And they say, well, how much does this weigh if you have to hold it like this for a week and it's heavy, your arm's burning and you're going to drop the bag of feathers. The darkest side of OnlyFans is that it's the imposter syndrome. It's the self work. That's the
Yeah.
hardest aspect. And then the big things that are heavy, but they come along so rarely, are the things that make you feel deeply uncomfortable when you're asked to do them. And you have to say to someone, I am not doing that, or I'm going to block you for even making that request.
Well, I'm trying to imagine something like, so what, like, like the fetish is just something you're not into, you mean? Like they're asking for
No,
like you
it
to
wouldn't.
shit on yourself or something?
No, if someone said that, I would say that's not. There are creators that would do that, I'm sure, but I wouldn't because I
Yeah.
just wouldn't. Not that I think. If I think about that logically, it's like gross, but it's probably no harm done. You know, it's not.
Right.
It's
That's
worse
why
than.
I'm like, I'm so confused by it because I'm like, so what?
I don't know
I'm
if I
trying
want to.
to,
If I,
yeah, no,
I don't know.
don't say it because I'm worried it's going
Yeah,
to offend someone. But is it
I think it.
like,
Yeah,
it's just a
if it was
bit like
illegal,
too, it's not a fetish. Oh, okay. So it's, we're not
no. Like
talking
if you were
fetishes now. We're talking outside of that
role
realm.
playing or saying something that would indicate
Oh, oh no, I know where you're going now. Oh God. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, okay. No, that's. But and does that mean? So obviously you're not. Does that mean then that there are probably people that they have dealt with before who have done it? That people that will do it
well, I mean, there's a load of people in the
must
world,
be.
aren't there? I
That's crazy.
maybe, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I know a lot of the time models will. So we network on Telegram, and so a lot of the time I'll go in and then someone will have shared a screenshot and say, block this person so they can't subscribe to you because this is the kind of request they're making. I would think, I don't know. I sometimes wonder if they really want that or if they're just into the shock factor that
Testing
maybe
you.
yeah, maybe it's that. Maybe it's not that they're into that particular thing. Maybe it's that they like making you feel uncomfortable.
Do you ever think like it may be someone that is trying to dox you and trying to publicly shame you and put it on Twitter and let people see what you've done?
No,
Is
because
it
I think
weird that
you would
that's the
just
first
release
thing
the
I go
screenshot,
to?
wouldn't you? You would just release I would just retaliate and say, well, look, this is exactly what you, I mean, I would never do it in the first place, but if I did find myself in that situation, I'd just say, well, what are you talking about? This is what you requested. So,
Right, okay.
you know,
It's
there would,
weird. You know what? That is me just being typical me. I'm always like, oh, someone's going to be out to get me. So that's what they're doing. They're trying to trick me. That's the first place I went to is like, oh, I bet any money they're doing that because it's someone that you know and they're going to put it on Twitter. It's like, isn't that weird? That's like the first place I go. I don't know why I went there. But anyway, carry on. Sorry.
yeah, I think you would be able to, I mean, you would have to, people would probably say, well, why did you even do it in the first place? But it does make it less sketchy, I guess, if you can retaliate in that way and say, well, look, this is exactly what you requested.
And
So
these requests, so again, don't know much about it, but I've seen a posts and like I see a lot of memes about OnlyFans actually, funnily enough. So they pay their subscription and then I pay my subscription to Loveday. Oh, for everyone listening, by the way, Caroline's what we call it, your stripper name, your sex worker name is Loveday.
love,
What do you
yeah.
call it? And do
What
you call
man?
that your stripper name or you're like
Oh, I don't know, Ali, whatever, just other name. I don't
whatever?
even really differentiate. Like, if you call me either in the street at this point, I would respond.
You'd
So, other
answer.
name, sex work name,
So
yeah.
I subscribe to Loveday and then I don't know, I want a video of you, tickling your feet or something. I then DM you and then I have to pay more. I pay some more and then you send me like a my separate video, or is it the video gets posted
Depends
to
on the
everyone or
yeah, it depends on the girl. Everyone runs their page differently. So I don't do PPV,
okay.
which is a pay-per-view message. So for example, I do what you most people do the same thing here, which is you pay to get in, and then there's a timeline of photos, nudes, that kind of thing, and that's included in your sub price. That's pretty standard. And then some girls will say if you want videos, that's extra. You can either PPV, pay per view, and I will send you the video and they'll have a catalog of videos that they've made previously. Or you can request a custom, which would be more expensive. I don't do
Okay.
PPV, but and this was a marketing thing that I learned for me, which doesn't work for all girls, but it works for me. So I do full length videos and I will pin because I think like I want everyone to be able to, I don't want to make a video and then be like, if you want to see this, pay extra. So I pin it to my page for 1 week. And I say, everyone that's subscribed to me in that week can view that video for free. And then it's archived. And at the point of it being archived, it just goes in my catalog. So someone joining can go. So I have one full length video on my feed at any given time. And then anyone that's joining can say, I really like that video. I'm going to go look what else she's got available. And then they do buy additional videos and extras. And for me, that worked because I used to just post everything to my wall without it expiring. And then I realized that people could go away for 3 months. And then, because I'm only like less than $8 a month to subscribe to. So,
and come back and see everything that you've posted for 3 months.
Everything. So there's no risk for them for going. So now I do it this way. And there is a risk because for $8, you get, depending how long the month is, 4 or 5 pornos a month. I mean, that's really good value for money.
Oh, are you on your own or with people? Do you have a partner that you do these videos with?
Yeah, I do. Well, yeah, solo, boy, girl, and I'll collaborate with other creators as well. So girl.
Okay.
Or girl.
And do you have a partner at the moment?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? And does she, they? And does he do any work with you?
Yes, yeah, he does. He's done a couple of videos with me, and my ex-partner did as well. And thankfully, we're still on really good terms. And he was like, you know, those videos are out there now. He was like, you just keep them. Although I have deleted them all now, but I was using them for a little while.
Is this the one that I met?
Probably. I think you've met a couple.
Your ex-husband.
Rob, yeah.
Your ex-husband?
No, he's not made
Rob,
any with me.
yeah.
I think we broke up about 9 years ago now.
Oh my God, that's how long I've known you, because I knew Rob. So I assumed that's who you're talking about. I was like, oh, no. Rob.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I actually, when you said that, I was a bit like, wow, he's a lot more competent than I thought he was. Oh, bless him. Yeah. But then actually saying that on that subject, I didn't think you were as confident as you actually are. I mean, confidence, like you say, is different in different people. When I first met you, I thought you were quite shy, and I wouldn't say you're the most outgoing person. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but actually, I think that's probably why you've done so well, is because you do have this shy girl next door kind of thing. And then, like, I think guys must love that. So, yeah.
Well,
it's just funny, isn't it? What you perceive.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think, I mean, if you met me out, if we went to an event, I would be very quiet and very shy. I can talk a lot. I'm very introverted. I can talk a lot when I'm passionate about a subject, like anyone. I have got a lot more confidence in myself because, like I say, the work you have to do to go out there and say, like, you've done that journey too. I am going to go out there and make it for myself. I'm going to find, and I will do whatever it takes to get there. That's a journey in confidence, and because you've got to cross a lot of bridges. Well, why are you worth it? Why are you different? What can you offer? There's that whole fake it till you make it. And that is the motto of my life. Like, I have winged it the whole way, but I just didn't give up. And I think that brings an awful lot of confidence. So I'm confident in what I do, but that doesn't mean I'm confident full stop. Do you know what I mean? Like, I still have my fears, my doubts, my insecurities. I'm still shy at parties. I'm still quiet and reserved, although it might not seem like it today. But I do now have a quieter confidence that I've never had at the grand age of 37. I've found some confidence, but I think just the confidence from not giving up, the confidence from not quitting, the confidence, for keeping going, that brings you, it's hard. Jacob and I were talking about this, and I wonder if you resonate when businesses seem to hit this thing where they start out okay, and then suddenly it drops off a ledge, and you're like, panic stations, like, oh my God, this is going to go horribly wrong. And I think that's, they say most businesses fail within 2 years. I think because everyone gets off the bus there. I think they're like, do you know what? I thought this was going to be easier. But if you stay in that space, you not only get the skill to get back here, you get the skill to then go some, because this is the best place to learn. But
Yep.
you've got to have a certain amount of, I mean, Jacob and I used to phone each other in tears. Like, we didn't know what we were going to eat that week. It was really,
Right.
and then he would be the strong one, like, it's okay. I was going through divorce. I was living at home with my parents. I was like 29, 30. So everything I thought, the direction I thought my life was going in just took a total drop off a cliff, like nosedive into the sea. And I was setting up a
Yeah.
business. I went from being a financial advisor to earning so little I didn't even pay tax or NI for the first year I was self-employed, and we would phone each other up all the time and be like, this is what's going on. And then, the studio started to do really well because we actually had no choice but to stay in that space. I mean, I guess I could have packed it up and gone back and got another job. But thankfully I was able to stay with my parents at the time. And maybe it was ego, like not wanting to admit failure. I don't know what it was, but I was like, I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. I'm not going back. I mean, I was miserable in the office. I hated it.
Yeah.
And we just stayed with it. We stayed and stayed and stayed. And then what we learned in that, the lowest point still stands as good at our highest point today. And that's the same for the sex work. It's the same for everything.
There was something you mentioned earlier. You just remind me of it when you just mentioned about being a financial advisor. And at the moment, you're doing great and so proud of you. It sounds like you've done so amazing for yourself in the last few years. So well done to you. It's inspiring for many to listen to, I'm sure. And now I want to ask you a question, because this is when I love to learn about the people's businessy side. So you were a financial advisor. And you're making this great money. Are you doing anything to invest that money, or is it that you have like quite high expenses? Are you quite a spendy person, or are you more savvy? Like what?
No, yeah, I know where you're going. So it's only really been the last year, I'd say I took a big upturn. So all the work I did, so I laid the foundations for a long time, and now that's paying off. So I bought a house because I thought that was the first thing I should do. And then now what I want to get a kind of 3 to 6 month pot of like earnings in cash. And then I'm undecided whether or not so I have a friend who's a financial advisor, and he's very sex work positive, and he would either put that in like stocks and shares, ISAs and stuff like that for me, or I don't know, maybe if I keep investing in property. I'm not sure at this point, and that's assuming
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at the moment as well. So
yeah.
I did. Well, you got to remember as well, you can only put a limited amount into an ISA. So you have like a limit per year you can put in. So I've put my limit
then
in,
you can
and then
you
it's
can go
like,
into unit trusts and
yeah. So, and then exactly. And then property is an option as well. Yeah. It's really interesting road. And I'm going to ask you the question I ask everyone. Do you have, well, probably actually it's not the same for you, because so I always say to people, like, do you have an exit strategy? Like, what's your long-term goal? Like, because for me, I always say to people, I'm like, my body's not going to be able to do this forever. So I want to, give myself something that will provide me a passive income in 20 years time, when I'm just literally not able to move anymore, because that's the way my body's going. And, to be able to provide me with some income. And lots of people I talk to they're like, no, not really. And I find it really weird, because it's one of the main things that I think about. I think like, right, I need to be working hard now whilst my body can do this, because there's going to come a day when, people won't be asking me to teach workshops anymore, or people won't be online with me anymore. Maybe, I don't know. And yeah, do you ever think about stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm glad you do too, because I wondered if that was years of being a financial advisor that drilled into me. Like, do you have a plan? Is your will up to date? Is your, so like you,
Mine isn't, by the way. I need to get a will.
You need to do that.
I need to do that.
I don't pay into a pension plan. I mean, I obviously have one from working in offices and stuff. And I don't know really, I think maybe property might become my pension plan effectively.
Yeah, good
I mean,
idea.
I want to move into sex therapy, and I am a qualified therapist, and I mean, I love the mind. And this is a weird thing that links, but weirdly, both our industries, the mind-body connection, because the more I do working on my body and the more I talk to people that have, because society's treatment of talking about sex, and this is a strange thing, right? Because sex is, if you had a friend that wasn't having sex at all or had a sex life even with themselves, or you'd be like, are you okay? Like it's, but yet we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
We all need it to be healthy, even if that's like solo, but we never talk about it. So this kind of mind body connection is so big in both pole industry and in the sex industry, right? But I think I will move eventually into sex therapy, which will give me probably
For
not
sure.
anywhere
And
near
so
as much.
you trained as a therapist, did you, at university or something? Is that how you
No,
trained?
I just randomly did it. It was when I was married, and my husband had, he Rob worked, and he worked hard, and that guy really, really worked hard, but he was out of the home a lot, and I was like, just bumbling around the house. I thought, well, I want to get a hobby, and I started doing a lot of. I went to therapy for me. And I thought, this is the usual thing. This is great. Now I'm going to change everybody else. And then I went to therapy and I thought, you're more screwed up than you realize. Like, you need to spend a lot more time here. But I mean, that's like 15 years ago. And then, I've been on this journey. And whilst I don't sit here saying I could, change people, I think where I can make a difference is sex therapy, because I do have a unique insight into sex and that industry, and kind of, I don't have a lot of body shame in effect, and that's just because of my own exposure therapy to having
Yeah.
to do what I do. So I think it would be I guess I'm drawn to that anyway. I think I'm a helper. So
Yeah, I think that'd be a great move as well. I think,
hmm,
but as well, like, so, and you're already qualified, did you say, as a therapist, just not specifically within the
not sex
sex?
therapy. Yeah,
Right,
like
okay.
your
So you'd have
basic
to do a bit of
level.
extra training kind of thing. You'd have to do some
Yeah, I
extra
mean,
training to,
I'll probably go back and start from scratch because it's been so long.
sure.
But
But at least you've kind of got, yeah, see, I listen to that, and for me, that's like, oh, that's so cool that you have that. And I always, Amy, I'm sorry I'm using you again, but Amy Cowles, do you know who Amy Cowles is? She trains at Deb Riley's studio. She's really lovely. She
I don't know.
basically
I know
left
the
her
name,
job.
so yeah,
Yeah, she's
I
really
don't
good.
know.
Yeah, she's really, really good. You probably would have seen her at a competition before. But
Mm,
she, I always use her as an example because she is the best example, I think. She had an amazing job. She was a scientist, very high up, like she was making great income and stuff, but she wanted to follow the dream, and that was to teach pole. Good for her. And at first I was a bit like, why would you do that? But then I also thought, but she can go back to it whenever she
yeah,
wants. So when she's done with pole, she'll just go back. And
yeah,
I love that. And that's one thing I always regret. And whenever I speak to younger people, I'm like, find something that, even if it's not your passion, that you know is going to give you an income in the future. Do something at uni. Don't just bum about. Do something at uni so you're qualified in something. You've at least got maybe a degree. This is one thing I wish I had done. I wish I'd qualified, like you said, maybe as a therapist or maybe as a, I don't know, whatever it could have been, an accountant or something
yeah,
like this, so that I could be like, I hated it, but if I needed to pay my bills, which is my biggest fear, is not being able to pay my bills, at least I could be like, right, I can go and be an accountant. Worst case, do you know what I mean? I always think about stuff like that.
But couldn't you train to be a PT or do massage or kind of some sort of movement facilitation, or there's movement therapy,
Yeah,
or there's like, the world is your lobster. You can,
yeah. Do you
um,
know what? Yeah, I probably could. You're right. I think I've realised over the years, and you'll probably find the same, because I think to do what you do does require a certain entrepreneurial spirit for sure. And I think once you have run your own business and you realise that you've got that in you, you'll always be okay. Because one thing as self-employed people, and I bet you and Jake can find the same thing, is that you always have this constant fear of being like, right, I have to work extra hard to make sure that I earn enough money to pay my rent. And then you realize, oh, okay, I've paid my rent. And then you're like, oh, and actually I've got £2,000 left over. And then you're like, okay, but now I need to do the same for next month. So then you work even harder again the next month. And then you're like, oh, but now I've got £3,000 left over. Oh, great. And then you're like, but I still need to work harder the next month. And then you keep working. And just slowly this trajectory just takes you up, 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 up. And you're like, wow, okay, hard work really does pay off. But so, and I can see there's a lot of that in you, even just from talking to you today, I can kind of see that. And, you know, it's funny how people think that it just takes a freaking, you know, they imagine it's just some blonde bimbo with big tits getting her boobs out on OnlyFans, and they don't realize that these are smart. Oh my God, these are some smart women. Like, people always take the piss out of people like Kate Price, you know, Jodie, what was her name? Jodie Marsh. They are smart ass women. This is why they made so much money, because they were smart. It's not because they were just hot. There's loads of hot people. There's loads of hot porn stars. There's only one Kate Price. She is a marketing genius. She's an entrepreneur. She is smart. And people don't get that. People just think that she was a blonde with like big tits that made loads of money. And that's why I love listening to people who do OnlyFans be successful, because for me, it's inspiring. I love listening to it. And, even just listening to your story today, it's been very, very inspiring. But I've literally just realised at the time, oh my God, we've been talking for ages. But it's been amazing talking to you. I loved listening to your journey. And honestly, if no one's told you this, you are doing amazing. And I'm so proud of what you've done. And compared to the person that I met years and years ago, it's so refreshing to see you just go on this completely different journey and learn different things about yourself. And I'm so proud to hear that you're doing financially well. And I've got my fingers crossed for you that it lasts for many, many, many more years.
Me too.
But,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. And I hope we can speak again soon sometime, and hopefully I'll bump into you soon. But until next time.
That would be lovely. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned a little bit from this episode. And who knows, maybe you will be starting your own OnlyFans soon. If you could do me a massive favor and go and give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to us on, I'd really appreciate it. Give it a screenshot, send it to me in a DM, and I'm going to enter you into a prize draw to win loads of goodies from my Polo's website. So go and do it now, and I will see you in the next episode. Until next time.
That was all the tea that you can get this week.